I was over there because there's a fruit called the citrus bergamot fruit. And this fruit has been clinically studied to help improve your HDL and lower your LDL. And it's natural. And it only grows in this very small region of Italy where it's very sandy and the ocean sort of meets these beautiful mountains. It's dramatic, it's gorgeous, it's so unbelievable. And they grow this citrus bergamot fruit. And then this fruit has the power to really transform cholesterol profiles, support cardiovascular health, improve blood sugar levels. It's a very, very special fruit.
When did you start getting into the work of autophagy, this amazing word called autophagy? I have a nickname for you, by the way. I call you the autophagy queen.
Oh my goodness, that made my day.
I always refer to you as, do you know Naomi Whittel? She's the autophagy queen. Because you were talking about it before it was in vogue. Now it's kind of in vogue if you're in the fasting space. But talk about autophagy. How did you get into this space?
Sure. So one of the advantages I have in my personal life, because I'm so incredibly curious, and I travel to all of these different parts of the world, I have the privilege of seeing things that will become a trend in the US, many, many, many years ahead of time. So it was 5 years before the Nobel Prize in medicine was won in 2016 for autophagy that I was starting to get into it. And my goodness, nobody knew that word. 95% of the physicians, of the PhDs in the world hadn't heard of this, or they didn't understand it. I mean, it was a really, really shocking thing. But I got into it intuitively. So as I was growing up with my autoimmune disorders, I recognized that I had to either be building or eliminating and removing. So I've been drinking green juices. My parents fed them to me when I was a year, 2 years old. I have 4 children. All of my kids drink them every single day. It's just part of what we do in our household. And they started with their little glass sippy cups at a tiny baby age, and their bodies crave it. So I always drank green juices because, well, there's so many nutrients, but also because I knew that it was helping me to sort of eliminate my toxic load. I couldn't figure out what was going on, but I knew that I was helping my cells to remove the junk. And so I lived that way. And then I was in Italy, in Calabria, Italy, with a brilliant researcher, Dr. Elizabeth Janda. We were sitting at this I was over there because there's a fruit called the citrus bergamot fruit. And this fruit has been clinically studied to help improve your HDL and lower your LDL. And it's natural. And it only grows in this very small region of Italy where it's very sandy and the ocean sort of meets these beautiful mountains. It's dramatic, it's gorgeous, it's so unbelievable. And they grow this citrus bergamot fruit. And then this fruit has the power to really transform cholesterol profiles, support cardiovascular health, improve blood sugar levels. It's a very, very special fruit. And the reason it's got all of these properties is the citrus bergamot has very high levels of flavonoids and flavonols, so, in the polyphenol antioxidant family. And I was sitting at this long table. This was before I knew about keto. So I was having this amazing, what was it? It was black squid pasta and all of these dishes, all of this amazing Italian food. And there were about 15 of us at this table. It was lunchtime. A lot of the researchers around the citrus bergamot fruit. I had my father, my father lives in England. I had him and his wife there, and he loves to take these trips with me. And so I called him literally 2 days before I got there. I'm like, hey, do you want to come over to Italy? And, Europe is so small. So he was there with me. And I was sitting next to Dr. Janda, and she said, did you know that citrus bergamot, we've been researching it as it relates to the activation of autophagy? I'm like, well, tell me about this autophagy. And she had been doing research, and she showed that when people were consuming certain ingredients, it was creating the activation of the autophagy, like within the liver cells throughout the body. And it was really, really having a huge impact on their health. So people who had like non-alcoholic fatty liver were taking the citrus bergamot. It was activating the autophagy, and it was transforming their health. So I flipped out. I actually fell over on my chair. But I said to myself that day, like, I have to figure out everything about this word that I can't pronounce. Like, I couldn't do it. So I flew home. I got with my team, and I'm like, we're going to figure this out. And that was, I was so passionate about autophagy, auto, self, phagy, to eat, because it connected with what I had been doing intuitively. And I learned you can activate it through exercise. You can activate it through, you know, sleeping within your circadian rhythm. You can activate it through all these different foods. You can activate it through really, truly a mindset, a specific type of mindset that can activate it. And we all have it. You know, this, in our own universe, we have so many miraculous systems, and it's for free. And all you have to do is just know, like, how to work with your own body. So that's what got me into it all those years ago. And then I wrote my book, Glow 15, on it. And I wrote the book in, I guess it was 2014, 2015. And then 3 weeks before I was going to meet with my publishers to see who I would work with, the Nobel Prize in Medicine was awarded to Yosunori Osumi, who's a Japanese biologist who did such great work on it. So it's been an incredible journey, and people love it. People love the word. Everyone said, you can't use that word in your book. No one's going to be able to go there. And I think I'm in love with autophagy, and I think, you know, hundreds of thousands of other people are now too.
Yeah, I love it too. Autophagy is a powerful, and it's free. Like you said, it could be activated through sleep, through fasting, through exercise, which don't cost any money. I love that you wrote about it even before it was popular. You started investigating what this word is before you could even pronounce it. We're very similar in the sense that when you get excited about something, it sounds like you become obsessive in a way to learn about it. And I'm very much the same way. And I totally relate to that.
It's a good way to be.
Yes. Recently, you actually flew out to Japan to meet with this researcher, correct?
Yes, I was incredibly honored. So he won the Nobel Prize, and there are no videos. Like, we went back 7 years. He has no one-on-one videos. And last year, my dream for the year was, my dream had been, since I wrote the book, my dream was to interview him. And we had tried, and his office was very polite. You know, he's extremely busy, and we're so sorry. But on the 18th of December in 2018, I had the privilege of being able to interview him on camera. And, you know, here's an individual who will change, and has already, you know, impacted millions and millions of people's lives. One of the most kind and humble people. The interview that I did with him is up on my YouTube channel. So for anyone that wants to watch it, we ended up putting subtitles because it's a little bit difficult to understand him. But I cried tears of just such admiration after that interview, because he's so humble, and he is a total contrarian. He's almost like an entrepreneur at his heart. And that's a message that I would love to share, you know, with anyone that's watching this right now. Here's a man, he was malnourished as a child. His mother had tuberculosis. He dreamt of being a scientist. All the scientists that were around were in the field of chemistry. There was a new science of biology. And he said, well, I've got to do something that's different than what everyone else is doing. I have to find a way to do something that's unique to me. Otherwise, I'm going to just, my life won't work. And having experienced that kind of trauma as a child, he decided, okay, I'm going to go into biology. And then he decided, I'm going to study autophagy. And it took several years for that first study to come out. And if you fast forward to 2016, when, you know, he won the Nobel Prize, there were over 7,000 studies done that year. And now it's much more. You know, he created a whole body of work and research and transformation. But every time he was at that fork in the road, just like we are with keto, right? Keto makes us question everything we know about nutrition, everything we may have believed, everything that our mother may have taught us, everything we've learned in school, all of that. And it takes years to like deprogram the mind. And, you know, for me, it's taken years to let go of my physical addiction, or I would say my psychological addiction to sugar. So he was at this crossroads and he said, I'm going to do everything different, contrarian, and I'm just going to trust. And that's why he is the human being that he is.
When it comes to autophagy, how does that relate to skin health, to looking better, looking younger? How does that relate?
So in my book, I dedicate the book to my mother, I dedicate it to my daughter, and I dedicate it to all the Latina beauties that are out there, because I truly believe, as I know you do, that Latin women are able to exhibit beauty on the outside of their body that's coming from the inside. So it's where outside meets inside. And I think that the Latin beauties, the Brazilian beauties, can really help to sort of lead a lot of the health that comes with being our most beautiful selves, specifically as women. So the skin, to me, and autophagy, we actually worked with a dermatologist, the only dermatologist that we could find in the whole world, Dr. Richard Wang, and he did research on how to activate autophagy in the skin. And I brought him hundreds of ingredients, and he chose 5. And when you combine these 5, it's things like the citrus bergamot, polyphenols like resveratrol, there's white asparagus, green coffee bean ingredients, ceramides. And when you put this combination, we actually made a skincare line based on it. And it's called our Cellular Rejuvenation Complex. I might even have some of it here. Yeah, here it is. So this is like one of the products, but this is the cleanser. All of the products, all of the ranges, this is the Renew range. It's called OMI, Outside Meets Inside Skin Nutrition. But when you put this on your skin, it's activating the autophagy immediately. And when your skin can breathe and it can detoxify, it basically brings the youth back in, because the cell can behave like it did when it was younger. And that's how it works together. And it works, you know, autophagy is activated by fasting. It's activated by keto. You know, we talk about that a lot. It's a really fascinating process. It affects all of the different organs in our body.
Yeah, it's powerful. So would you say that looking at somebody's skin, you could kind of get a fair assessment of their inside health?
I think so. I mean, I think so. For me, I could never put things on my skin. My skin always had to be about what I was doing on the inside because of my, you know, autoimmune conditions. So I learned very quickly that, yeah, what you're doing inside this is just a mirror of what's going on inside a lot of the time. And you could have, you know, men and women have very different skin. We have very different collagen fibers that support our skin. Like a woman has parallel collagen fibers and a man has little X's. We have parallels so that we can stretch and so that we can be pregnant. But what happens as we age is that becomes, you know, more and more of an issue. So once our hormones start to really change in our mid-40s, where we're really experiencing the transformation of all of our hormones declining, and we're going into that stage of menopause. On average, it's about 51 years old for a woman. The collagen drops 30% during those like 5 years. It sort of follows the same pathway as estrogen. And so our skin at 51 years old as a woman may look 5 or 10 years older than our partners, just because we have different fibers. So I think, you know, for women, it is always a reflection, but there's so much that we have to do. We're so complex with the way that the hormones are affecting us. We have to really like become super smart about autophagy and how to activate it. Like, we don't have as much room as men do. And so, you know, I think, yeah, the skin is a reflection of what's going on inside.
I didn't know that about
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting about the fibers. I had no idea about that. And it makes sense. It does make sense because of pregnancy, you want to be more flexible, more elastic. And so if you're a woman listening to this, this is really important information for you. If you're a guy like me, this is also relevant to me. It's relevant to any human being.